It's one last update for you on a story I covered already. And I know I mentioned this earlier, but the state of Washington recently passed a law requiring clergy members to report child abuse to law enforcement officials, even if they learn about it through the act of confession. It's a law that's going to protect children from predators. It'll prevent lifelong trauma. So why do I bring this up now? Because Catholic bishops have now filed a lawsuit to overturn it because they care more about predators than children. And just to give you a brief recap, like all this bill did is it adds members of the clergy to the list of mandated reporters in the state. And it specifically said clergy members would not be protected by an older law, which allows certain privileged communications to remain private. In other words, if you learn about abuse through confession, you cannot just say, it's confession, I don't have to tell anyone about it. You have to report it to authorities. And if we find out later you knew about this and didn't do anything, you could be prosecuted for it. And under the law, all mandated reporters, including priests, have to report suspicions of abuse within 48 hours. If they don't do that and they're caught, it could lead to a year-long prison sentence and a $5,000 fine. And when this bill was being debated, a Catholic bishop in Seattle, he argued it would be impossible for a priest to comply with this bill because he said the penalty for breaking that seal of confession is excommunication, which who cares what, I don't care about the rules of your weird game. Like in no rational world is getting excommunicated worse than letting a child continue to suffer sexual abuse. And if you would rather protect priests than kids, your organization should at least admit you do not care about children's safety. And it is telling that the Catholic governor of the state of Washington, Bob Ferguson, when he was asked about this bill and like whether he might veto it, this is what he said at the time. Keeping the confessional in the bill did not give Ferguson pause. Not for me, he said. As a Catholic, I'm very familiar with it. Been to confession myself. I felt this was important legislation for protecting kids. That's the Democratic governor saying that, but the conservative Catholic priests are like, what? No, who cares about the kids? So this is what it comes down to. What's more important, protecting a religious tradition or protecting children? And when like Democratic governors have a higher ethical standard than your church, your religion's probably doing something very, very wrong. So after the bill was signed, the Washington State Catholic Conference insisted, you guys, we totally care about protecting kids. This is the statement they put out after the bill was signed. While we remain committed to protecting minors and all vulnerable people from abuse. Really, Catholic Church, you think you're the poster boys for protecting kids? Priests cannot comply with this law if the knowledge of abuse is obtained through the sacrament of reconciliation. And here's how you know they know this is bad optics for them. Because they stopped saying, well, if some dude confesses to abusing a kid in a little box in a Catholic church, yeah, the priest should have to tell the police. That's what's happening. But they're trying to cloak it using magical, mystical, multisyllabic language. So they're like, well, if this knowledge of abuse is obtained during the sacrament of reconciliation, doesn't that scare you? Why would you want to go up against that? That's how they're trying to scare people into thinking this is wrong. And then they also said, this is where it gets even more interesting. Look at what they said at the bottom here. Once the approved bill went to the governor for his signature, the bishops of the state of Washington asked for a meeting to discuss our concerns with the governor, who unfortunately did not respond to our request. We already knew what your request was. Why would we take that meeting just so we could say no? It's a waste of time. And this is also interesting. Once the state asserts the right to dictate religious practices and coerce information obtained within this sacrament, privileged communication, where is the line drawn between church and state? What else may the state now demand the right to know? What other religious practices will it try to legislate? Oh my God, all we are talking about is if a predator walks into the confession booth and says, yeah, I've been doing a lot of the predating. You know what I mean. If he says that, then you should tell police because he's going to hurt other kids. And the way they are distorting that fact to say the state is dictating our religious practices. Their religious practices are apparently shielding predators from being prosecuted. And they're trying to coerce information obtained within this sacrament, privileged communication. Yeah, it's a confession of abuse. Just say it. Like, stop hiding behind this language and just admit what you're doing, which is if a predator walks into our booth, we don't care if he keeps abusing children. His secret is safe with us. That's how confession works. Just say that. That's what this is all about. And they go on to say, why is this privileged communication between priest penitent the only one singled out? Why not attorney-client, doctor-patient, spouses? Here's the thing, and I've covered this in other videos. If you are representing a client for some reason and you find out that dude is molesting his kids or something, even a lawyer does not get to keep that secret. That's not why he's defending the dude, right? And a doctor-patient thing, if you find out your patient, it's not like you're saying, hey, doctor, I have a rash, and that's confidential between you two. If you confess you are molesting a kid, a doctor can, in fact, testify against you in court. You know who doesn't have to testify against you in court? Priests under this law. So this idea that priests have it worse than other groups that have some form of confidentiality is BS. Priests still actually have it better. They don't have to do as much stuff as other groups, much less teachers and social workers who are obligated to follow the law. So anyway, Washington was not targeting religious conduct. It wasn't impacting their rituals. Lawmakers just said you can't use, honestly, I think they have it backwards. It's not that the state was telling the Catholic Church how to run its religion. It's that the state said your religion cannot be used as an excuse not to follow the law. And I think that's backward. I think that's different. To put it another way, I think if the state cannot interfere with the religion's beliefs, the state should not be allowed to hand out exemptions to groups based on their religion. And I think that's the fix that they made with this law. The other reason I said this was all a problem is because suppose I gave the Catholic Church the option of saying there's no more privileged communication anywhere. Lawyers, if they hear something from a client, no longer confidential. Doctors, spouses, none of that stuff is confidential. So yeah, priests don't get any confidentiality either. Are you good with that now? And you know the Catholic bishops would be like, no, we demand special treatment for things we hear in confession. So they don't actually want to be treated the same as all these other groups. They want the bar to be low for everybody, while Democrats want the bar higher for everybody. Again, why are you losing an ethical battle to politicians? That's that on your part. Now, why am I bringing all this up now? 2 reasons. One is, and I mentioned this earlier, last month, literally a month ago, the Justice Department under Pam Bondi and the Trump administration, these Republicans announced a First Amendment investigation into this law. Because you know the Trump administration is like, what? Predators might get in trouble? Oh no, step in, we got to protect them. And they said the Civil Rights Division, because they're not dealing with racism anymore, they're going to investigate the apparent conflict between Washington's law and the First Amendment's free exercise of religion. And again, I want to clarify, what do we mean by free exercise of religion under the First Amendment? For the Catholics in this story, the free exercise of religion is protecting child predators. Everyone should get used to saying that reflexively and stop using their language. But the other reason I wanted to point this out is that the Catholic bishops in Washington have now sued the state of Washington because they want their self-proclaimed right to protect sex predators. And look at how they are phrasing this in their lawsuit, because it's seriously disgusting. Let me share this with you. This is from their lawsuit. This is line 15, number 4. Putting clergy to the choice between temporal criminal punishment and eternal damnation, ... is something really bad. They are saying these are our only 2 choices. Keep the predator's secrets a secret and go to jail, temporal criminal punishment, or get kicked out of the church and face eternal damnation. Eternal damnation is is a consequence they made up in their head. It's not real. They just made that one up. No one should be taking that seriously. This idea that, listen, we have two options: go to jail because we love predators, or, yeah, I don't know, get a slap on the wrist from the Pope. Who cares? And they're like, we can't get eternal damnation. We got to protect the predators. That is, honestly, I'm not even making this up. This is what their argument boils down to. And they're using coded language again because they know if they just come right out and say, we got to protect the secrets of sex predators, these are our people. They know that looks bad, but that is what they are arguing. They think their only two options are go to jail or be tortured for eternity, and they made up the second one. Like, the heart of the lawsuit says priests are being treated worse than everyone else, but like I told you already, that's a lie. Clergy members are not singled out. They say clergy members were listed specifically in the bill, and that's true, but they were only mentioned in the bill because they were the ones who were exempt in the past, and you have to take them off the list now. So anyway, if anything, like I said, priests still get off lightly. I also wanted to show you one other thing in this lawsuit, because I was just shocked by how much they were citing this. Look at all the religious language they use in this lawsuit. Look at line 11 here, section 47. They're trying to explain how protecting predators is really a big deal for them. As taught by the Roman Catholic Church, Jesus Christ, the eternal Son of God, became incarnate and was crucified on the cross as an atonement for man's sins. Through baptism, I don't care, I'm not giving you a Sunday school lesson, but this goes on for a while where they just talk about their fictional story going on for a while. And they're like, see, everybody, did you read our little Sunday school lesson here? And that's why we have to protect child sex predators. Again, if you read between the lines and go past the, what are you saying about baptism does not, however, eradicate the temporal consequences of sin, all these Catholics are doing is saying predators deserve to not go to jail. Unbelievable. If my religion told me it was more important, let me show you this last section right here. Look at line 55. Priests are obligated to defend the sacramental seal, if necessary, Latin, through the shedding of blood. These priests would rather die than confess to a cop that, oh, by the way, a child sex predator came into my booth and he's totally going to abuse a child again. We would rather die and shed our blood than allow that predator to not go after a kid again. Like, if your religion taught you you should die instead of giving up a child sex predator, like, maybe ditch that religion. It's not a good religion. Again, this is not a complicated dilemma. This is very clear cut. And I don't understand why they think secular courts should take their religious mythology seriously. I know that precedent under the Supreme Court right now is if you sincerely believe something, we have to take that into account. I believe that Catholic priests very seriously take the act of confession, but I don't think that should be an excuse to let a sex predator keep getting away with it. And it is appalling to me that these Catholic bishops say, no, the predators deserve to go on molesting kids because it's not our job to stop it, even though we know it's happening. So this lawsuit was filed on behalf of the bishops by Becket Fund for Religious Liberty, one of those right-wing legal groups, and First Liberty Institute, another conservative religious group, along with another law firm, Wilmer Hale, which is like an actual big white-collar law firm. I'm surprised they're getting involved in this. But I don't think it helps when they make statements about this case, because the things they are saying in it is kind of the way they're defending this lawsuit is kind of insane. Check this out. This is from the guy running Becket, Mark Rienzi. Washington's law isn't about protecting kids. It's about jailing priests for following the church's ancient faith practices. No, my dude, it is 100% about protecting kids, and no one cares about your ancient faith practices. No one wants to jail priests, by the way, either. This is not about jailing priests. I don't want priests to go to jail. I just wish they had some ethical backbone to say maybe we should protect children for once. We are asking the court to step in and stop the state from turning a sanctuary for the soul into a tool of surveillance. Because if there's one thing conservatives hate, the ones who just signed a contract with Palantir to spy on everybody and who want an autism database, it's they don't like surveillance. Anyway, no one's surveilling these confession booths. Like I said, even if someone did confess to this stuff in a confession booth, it's very hard to know that a priest heard this confession and did not act on it and then prosecuting the priest. It's very hard to get this done. I don't necessarily know if this law will accomplish what they hope it'll accomplish, even though I think it's the right thing to do. But the way these defenders are going about it is ridiculous. I will give props to the governor of Washington, Bob Ferguson. This is his response to the lawsuit. I'm disappointed my church is filing a federal lawsuit to protect individuals who abuse kids. That's it. You don't have to say any more. That's your mic drop statement right there. And you're right. That's how we should all talk about it. The Catholic Church wants to protect child predators. That's it. That's the end of the story. They're going to court because they would rather protect predators than protect children. Anyway, I think I'll stop there. What questions do we have for this story? Morality is doing what is right regardless of what you were told. Religion is doing what you were told regardless of what is right. A beautifully put statement. Thank you for sharing that. Aren't there scriptures acknowledging a difference between God's law and man's law? And like, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and God what is God? Yeah, but these people haven't read the Bible, you see? So it's hard to use it against them. Catholic Church, secrets are greater than children. That is correct. That's what they're suing the state to defend. Unbelievable. So reporting child sexual abuse gets you eternal damnation. What kind of religion is this? One that's been in the news for at least 25 years for defending child sex abuse and protecting predators. I mean, this is not a surprise. This is what the Catholic Church does.